See, what's that you've got in your hand? He says, they're cod's eyes, 2 cod's eyes. He said, what are they for? For giving you brains. She says, you're joking. He said, they're £1 each, and they give you brain food. He says, I'll buy them off you for £2. He says, thanks. There you are. So we met him the next morning. He said, remember those cod's eyes you give me? I gave you £2. He said, that's right. I could have bought 48 cod's eyes with £2. So there you are. They're starting to work right away. This lad was always fighting in scraps. The police took him in the police station there, and his mother came to see him. She says, Tony, what's the matter with you? Always a fighting and playing and through and terrible fights. It's shocking. He says, don't talk like that, mother. She says, I'm working all the day to make a nice little home for you, and your father's down the pit, and he's working his fingers to the bones. What's the matter with you, Tony? She said. He says, don't talk like that, mother. She said, what do you mean, don't talk like that? He says, you're not Italian?
Today the world's changing, isn't it? And we've got to be quick these days. Have you noticed how quick people are becoming? They've got an answer for everything, you know what I mean? Like the phone went in the hospital and the matron said, hello, yes? And a voice said, I'm inquiring about the gentleman in Ward A. Could you tell me how he is? She said, yes, he's very comfortable. He's having his operation tomorrow. Who's speaking? He said, it's a bloke in Ward A here. Nobody tells me anything, you know. I mean...
Oh, John, this is true, this. There was a little midget, you know, and a grand little fella, and he got on train at Donny, and he was going he was going to Peterborough, but he got on this train, and he's belting along, and he said, there you are, where we are? They said, London. He says, I'm on a show at Peterborough. He said, well, we don't stop. He says, you'll have to stop. He says, you'll have to do. He said, he said, hold on, I'll go see driver, see what we can do for the old love. So he said to the driver, he says, this midget is on a show at Peterborough, can we help him? This is only one thing we can do, we'll slow down, going through the station. He said, and he says, fetch him here. So he says, come here. He says, look, cop. He says, Peterborough. He says, but we don't stop. He says, I know, but he said, well, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, we get in near, I'll slow the train down. He said, I'll pick the up with scruff and neck, hang the hat at window and get the little legs going, see? So he does this, and his legs are going. And he dropped him smack on Peterborough Station, and he's going like, whoa. And guard looked out, and he seen this. So he whipped him up, he says, by gum, Dan nearly missed it that time, old man.
No, actually, you read a lot about in the paper. You read a lot about different things in the papers. You read about heart transplants. Well, I was in the northeast of England about 4 weeks ago, and there were 3 fellas in a club having an argument. One was an American. He said, Mac, in the States, we transplanted a kidney into a guy, and 3 weeks later, he was out looking for work. A Russian fella got up. He said, in Russia, we transplanted a heart into a patient. 2 weeks later, he was out looking for work. A little Yorkshire fella got up. He said, I'll tell thee what. He was a Welsh Yorkshireman, this fella was. We transplanted a fella from Huddersfield into 10 Downing Street. 3 weeks later, there were 200,000 out looking for work. Bless you. Well, it's true, there's a lot of unemployment all over the country. I mean, take South Wales. My friend Di hasn't worked for 40 years. He hasn't worked for so long, one of his insurance stamps is worth more than a penny black. Shows how lazy they are in the family. His son hasn't worked for 10. Sitting in the kitchen one day, he said, son, go outside and see if it's raining. He said, got a better idea, call a dog in, see if he's wet.
And what about this woman that come running out of the bank screaming blue murder? And this policeman said, what's up? She said, an elephant's just been in and robbed the bank. He said, will he recognise it again if you see it? She said, no, it had a stocking over its head. Oh, Mariah sounds that. Hey, and it's funny, you know, it's funny, but, you know, when I go shopping now, and I'm not acting daft, you know, and I'm being serious. And I walk in, and I walked into this shoe shop, and I said, a pair of crocodile shoes, please. He said, certainly. What size is your crocodile take? We're having a good time, aren't we? Yeah. I have the same trouble getting a suit, you know. I walked into this shop and I said, I want to try that suit on in the window. He said, well, you can't, you'll have to try it on in the cubicle. And I was in this pub, and this fella came in, and he said, a double whiskey, drinks all round, and have a pint yourself. And the manager said, thanks very much, £5.15. I said, I haven't got any money. He went, smack, get out. And don't come back. He said, all right then. So the next night he come in again, and he said, a double whiskey, drinks all round, and nothing for you. He said, why? He said, you get nasty when you've had a drink.
Irishman came home from the building site, full of stuff. The landlady says, I'm glad you're early, Paddy, she said. The bulb's gone in the best room. She says, I'll fix that for you, Mrs. Woman, don't you worry about that. And he walks in the best room and stands on a £1,000 piano. Beautiful piece of furniture. In this muddy well, is it? She said, hang on, I'll put a bit of paper under your feet. He said, no, you're all right, I can reach it. He said. Napoleon rode to the top of this hill on his horse. Weighing the job up there. 50,000 Russian troops out front. 25,000 of his own troops galloping behind him. And he shouts, halt! They all stopped about 4 miles away. And this footman pushed his way through all the troops and run 4 miles to Napoleon. He went. Napoleon said, what do you want? He said, I thought he shouted me. He said, I shouted, halt. Oh, he said, I thought he shouted, Walt. Well, I went to the doctor. He said, I'm very, very worried. He said, what are you worried about? Have you got a good home? He said, yes, I live in Cheshire, nice big home there. Yacht, Cairns, Rolls, Silver Cloud, Mercedes. He said, what are you worried about? He said, well, I only get £9.15 a week. Two astronauts came out of this pub on the moon. Well sloshed they were. One said, that's the last time I go in there. He said, why? He said, there's no atmosphere.
I wish my dad had been here because he'd have enjoyed your company. He's great, me dad, you know. He's on the docks, actually. He's in C Division. You know C Division? See that, see these, see them. He's great now. He used to be in the Navy. I remember him, on his last voyage, he thought, I'll bring me mother something home to remind her of the days at sea, you see. So he bought me gran this huge parrot, £250, and he brought it home, and my gran was a bit Mutt and Jeff, you know. He said, I've brought this parrot home here. It'll talk to you and keep you company in the rocking chair. The parrot will talk. She said, eh? He said, you see this bird here? It'll talk to you. In 9 languages, the bird. She said, how? He left her with her. He went back the week after. He said, how's the parrot? She said, lovely. The flesh just fell away. But it's wrong, isn't it? It's wrong. I mean, and people, you know, today they've got a funny outlook today. I mean, people in Liverpool, for instance, think that all comedians are going to get up and skip the dockers, you know. And this is wrong because I don't know whether you've heard, but in Liverpool things are slack on the docks now, and fellas are taking stuff back. And this is true, you know. I mean, there's a big American got off the boat with a big hat and a cigar. You know, here's me cigar. The rest of me's coming, and he's walking up the road, and there's a big circle of dockers like that. And in the middle on the floor, there's an old fella. The Yank said, what's wrong with him? They said, he wants to go to the toilet. He said, why doesn't he go? They said, on his dinner hour. But They don't, no. Look at the poor old soul went to the parish priest. He said, Father, I'm dying of neglect. I've got no gas, no coal, no food. What am I going to do? The priest said, you want to ask God to help you? He said, I will. So he wrote a letter to God. Dear God, I'm stuck for a few bob. If I had 100 quid, it'd look after me for the rest of my days. Or he put it in an envelope. God, care of heaven, stamp. And the fellow in the GPO opened it up. He said, look at that, the poor old soul. So they had a collection for him. They got £95, sent it back. He was delighted. He wrote back, Dear God, thank you for the miracle. I know I asked for £100 and only 95 came, but it's probably one of them robbing swines in the post office.
Father Murphy was going over to Rome to study for 8 years, and Bridget Flanagan went up to him. She said, Father, when you get over there, would you say a prayer in St. Peter's Basilica that I'll have a little family? He said, don't worry, when I get over there, I'll light a candle for you. 8 years later, he came back. Mrs. Flanagan went up. She said, Father, God love you. You're a saint. You'll be canonized. The 2 children, the kids, the twins, are upstairs. The other 3 wee fellas are at school, and the other 2's in the nursery. He says, glory be to God. Where's your husband? She said, he's away over to Rome to blow out the candle.
It's a daft one, isn't it? See about the 4 Irish fellas thinking of robbing a bank, so they're organising it. The 4 of them are there in the wellies. Pat, the brains. He said, well, now look, lad, now, Michael, now, you ready? What I want you to do, get the gun and rush in and stop any of the customers, get them up against the wall, and if there's anything, shoot them. He said, I will, I will. Yes. I will. He said, I'll be outside in the car because I've got the worst job. I said, right. He said, now, Sean, what I want you to do, he said, is to nip in after Pat and jump over the counter and get the tiller, the one with the money, and make a lie on the floor. Put your willy on the head and keep it there. Well, yes. I will. Now, Pat, now, what your job? He said, now, what I want you to do, I'll be outside, I'll be outside in the car. Because I got the worst job, the hardest job of the lot, in the car. He said, you nip in and open the safe, blow open the safe now and get the money out. Right. Now, we'll meet here now, synchronise your watches now, we'll meet here at 9 o'clock, right? Now, I'll be out in the car, because I've got the worst job. I said, now, hang on a minute, we're robbing the bank and you're sitting, why come you've got the worst job? I said, well, there's no tax on the car.
4-man shouts, Murphy, you're sacked. He said, I can't hear you. He said, you're sacked. I can't hear you. You're sacked. I can't hear you. He said, the hell, I'd sack someone else.
I knew one fella woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, very superstitious as well. 5 o'clock in the morning, he went downstairs and his landlady gave him 5 boiled eggs for breakfast. 5 boiled eggs. And the milkman delivered 5 pints of milk. We thought that's a coincidence. He got the morning paper, it was the 5th day, the 5th month, 1965. You thought that's a coincidence. 5 boiled eggs, 5 o'clock in the morning, 5th day, the 5th month. He said, I'll have a bet. So he borrowed a £5. He got a number 5 bus to the races. Paid 5 on the bus. He got off at the 5th stop. Paid 5 shillings to go into the races. He waited till the 5th race, put the 5 at the bottom on the 5th horse in the 5th race, and he came 5th.
If you ever come to Wales, don't panic, because a lot of people were worried because they were going to get a Russian spy come into Wales. And it's quite true. He came out to Wales and he had to make contact with another spy by the name of Jones. And the password was, there'll be snow in Barry Island tonight. Well, this Russian spy got off the train in a little place called Abercynon. Walks up to a little Welsh station master and said, "Can you tell me where I can find someone by the name of Jones?" The station master said, "Jones? Now let me see. We got Jones the butcher, Jones the baker, Jones the coal, Jones the milk. We got a singer by the name of Jones, which is not unusual." In fact, he said, "My name is Jones." And the Russian said, "There will be snow on Barry Island tonight." He said, "Oh, is Jones a spy you want?"
Irishman, the Scotsman, and the Englishman caught by the cannibals. The cannibal chief said to the Scotsman, well, there's always an Irishman with an Englishman and a Scotsman. The Welsh can never get in there. He says to the Scotsman, "Where do you come from?" He says, "Glasgow." He said, "Stick him in the pot." He said to the second fellow, "Where do you come from?" He said, "I come from London." He said, "Stick him in the pot." He says to the Irishman, "Where do you come from?" He said, "Dublin." He said, "Let him go." So the cannibal says to the chief, "Why are you going to let?" He's an Irish cannibal as well. He says, "Why are you going to let that fella go?" He said, "Well, the last fellow I had from Dublin in the pot, he ate all the bloody potatoes."
Farmer had a big sow. He said, "I'm going to sell it." His mate said, "Don't sell it, bring it over to my place and we'll put it with the boar." He said, "I've got a big boar and we'll stick them together and we'll make a few bob." He said, "Right." So he stuck the great big sow in the wheelbarrow and took it over to his mate's farm and he put it with the boar. He said, "Now, how do we know whether it's all right or not?" He said, "Well, in the morning, when you look out the window, if the sow is rolling in the mud, it's okay. It's pregnant. But if it's eating the grass, you'll have to bring it back." Next morning, he opened the window, there's the sow eating the grass in the wheelbarrow to his mate, to the boar. You're not getting bored, are you? So they put it with the boar again. Next morning, he woke up there, it was eating the grass again, so he had to put it back in the wheelbarrow. Push it all the way up to his mate's place. Next morning, eating the grass. Off it went again in the wheelbarrow. This went on all week. Saturday morning, he's having a lay, and he said to his wife, "Mary, for God's sake, look outside and see what the sow is doing. Whether it's rolling in the mud or eating the grass." She said, "It's sitting in the wheelbarrow."
This Irishman was in lodgings. For the first morning he went to work. In his lunch, there was 2 slices of bread and 1 lump of cheese. When he came back that night, the lady said, "Did you enjoy your lunch?" He said, "It was very nice. Only there wasn't enough of it." The second week, it went on and on. 2 slices, 4 slices. At the end of 3 weeks, he was getting 96 slices of bread and 48 lumps of cheese. So she said, "Did you enjoy your lunch?" He said, "It's all right, but there wasn't enough of it." So she decided to try out. She baked a loaf, 6 foot high, 4 foot wide and 11 foot deep. She cut it in 2 and put 100 weight and a half of cheese in. Wrapped it up in the newspaper, 4 editions. Put it in his bag and sent him to work when he came home that night. She said, "Did you like your lunch?" He said, "It was terrific, but I see you're back to the 2 slices."
And I saw this fella with a long face, and I talked to anybody me that I talked back, and I said, "What's up with you?" And he said, "I'm not going home to our house." I said, "Aren't you?" He said, "No." I said, "Why aren't you going back?" He said, "There's a terrible smell in our house." I said, "Is there?" He said, "Aye, the wife keeps cats." I said, "Well, have you tried opening the window?" He said, "What, and let all my pigeons out?" Hey, and what about this horse that collapsed in Piccadilly? And this policeman was stood there with his notebook 10 minutes. And the sergeant said, "Well, what are you waiting for?" He said, "How do you spell Piccadilly?" He said, P-I-K. Drag it into Tib Street. Drag it into Tib Street. We'll all have bellyache, won't we? Hey, and what about this village idiot joined the army? Wasn't me, but I knew him. And he joined up, and he lost his rifle. And the CO said, "Where is it?" He said, "I've lost it." He said, "You'll have to pay for it now." He said, "I'm not paying for it because it's not mine." He said, "You'll have to." He said, "Because anything you get issued within the army, if you lose it, you have to pay for it." He said, "Well, what would happen if I was driving a tank and I lost that?" He said, "You'd have to pay for it." He said, "It's no wonder these captains go down with the ships, is it?"
Kelly and Flanagan went into the circus, and there was all these table tennis balls on the jets of water. So he lifted up the rifle. He said, "What's this?" 6 of them. All the balls went down. He said, "Fantastic, Kelly, fantastic. But what's this?" And he lifted the rifle. Bang! 1 shot and the whole lot went down. He said, "How'd you do that?" He said, "I shot the fella pumping the water."
I got my first fan letter today. Do you get it? I got a letter from my mum as well. She writes to me now and again. I just read it to you. My granny sent me one once, you know, but this one's from my mum. It says, "Dear Ken." She's not Scotch, because they say that as well, don't they, "Dear Ken"? Do you get it? Dear Ken. My mum says that as well. "Dear Ken, here are a few lines." Then she's written 2 straight lines underneath there. "Here are a few lines with the family news. You will be pleased to learn that your father now has a new job with 500 men under him. He is cutting the grass at the cemetery." Do you get it? "And your brother John has joined the army, and he has only been in a fortnight, and they have made him a court-martial already." "And he is going away for 6 months to give Her Majesty pleasure." And it goes on to say here, "Your father now has started keeping pigs in the backyard, and there is an awful smell from your loving mother." She's as daft as me, she is.
I never had a mother and father. It's true. I think you better have this. You see, I was an incubator baby. In fact, every Mother's Day, I sent flowers to an oil stove in Huddersfield. And then I was adopted. But they were poor. Oh, I came from a poor family. We were so poor, my brother was made in Hong Kong. You don't know what it's like to be poor, do you? Couldn't even afford laxatives. My dad used to sit us on the potty and tell us ghost stories. Hang on. It's bloody good character acting, isn't it, eh? And I remember at Christmas, when you all have your turkeys, we couldn't afford a turkey. My dad used to go out and buy the budgie chest expanders.
Then a fella used to come down our street with a horse and cart, shouting, "Swell, swell." And my mother used to run out and say, "2 buckets, please."
We get worse, don't we? You're enjoying yourself tonight, pet, aren't you? Where you from, chicken? Where you from, darling? Stockport. Scruffy place, then. Cheshire. Oh, bit of class here at Cheshire. A load of rubbish, that is, in Cheshire. There used to be a story used to go around, and I always remember, I had a different way, but the way I tell it was about the train going through a tunnel. And in this train compartment was an old lady, a young girl, a United supporter, and a City supporter. And as they're going through the tunnel, they heard smack. And as they come out the tunnel, there was the City supporter with a black eye and a bloody nose. And the old girl thought to herself, "Isn't that young girl brave? Letting that City supporter kiss her, and she smacking him in the mouth." And the young girl thought, "That's strange. The City supporter kissing the old woman instead of kissing me." And the City supporter thought, "That United supporter's a lucky lad. He kisses the girl, and she thumps me." And the United supporter, "Aren't I a clever little lad? I kissed the back of my hand, slaps a City supporter in the gob, and nobody says a bloody word."
An American tourist on the bus passing Manchester Town Hall. He said, "Say, buddy," little Lancashire lad at the side, "what's that there?" He said, That's our town hall," he said. "It's our clock." He said, "We've got prefabs bigger than that in America." He said, "Oh, aye." Just then, a fire engine went past. 90 mile an hour, turntable ladders, all bells ringing. He said, "What was that, buddy?" He said, "A window cleaner late for work." There's a beautiful little village in Ireland called Sion Mills, and there's a plaque outside a house, and it said, "Erected to the memory of Willie Flanagan, the bravest man in Sion Mills." It happened when they opened a new hall, and it went on fire, and Willie was sitting in the front row. And instead of rushing to save himself, he dashed up to the bandstand, picked up a violin, and started to play. He was a gifted virtuoso. So much so that the audience drifted back to their seats, and he played enchanting, beautiful violin music. And Willie, by his prompt action, was responsible for over 1,600 people being burnt to death.
No, the world's going mad today, though, isn't it? I blame the women. I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of fellas in the audience this evening with their wives or intendeds, but I mean, you know what it's like when you're going out on your own or with the lads and she starts. "Oh, yes, you go. Don't take me. No. I'm just a drudge. You never take me anyway." I gave her a shake at 6:30 one morning. I said, "Hey, you coming to work?" She's horrible. She takes after her father. Her father is a horrible man. He's in bad company when he's on his own. And you've never met a meaner man in your life. You should have seen our wedding. We got 14 electric toasters for wedding presents. Her father gave us a sliced loaf. I'll tell you how mean he is. He used to be a mountain climber. He was trapped once climbing the Matterhorn, frozen stiff to a ledge for 2 days and nights, hanging by his fingertips to grim death. And they got a rescue helicopter 100 foot below, and a fella got out and shouted up, "Here, Scouse Red Cross." He said, "Clear off, I give you tuppence last year."
The policeman walking through the car park, and he comes up to this little Minnie and he says to the girl, "What are you doing in there?" She says, "We're doing the slow foxtrot." He came up to the next car, he said, "What are you two doing in there?" She says, "We're doing the cha-cha-cha." And he came up to a big Rolls Royce, and one of these dolly birds put her hair in a blonde. He said, I suppose you're doing the bossa nova. She said, no, sir, I'm doing the bossa favour.
No, but obviously, people sort of here anyway can recognise, a Liverpool person by his accent. But I mean, there are various ways of recognising Liverpool men when they go away. I mean, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when a Liverpool fella comes to sort of Manchester, Preston, Blackpool, Chester, when he's in that region, he's easy to spot, you see, because he's always between two bobbies. And he's like that. All right. But when we leave Liverpool completely, I mean, if we go to London, I mean, like my granddad went to London, he went to watch Liverpool, playing in the cup final. I remember, they got on the train, went to the station, him and the lads, 16 returns, Jimmy. The fella said, where to? He said, back here, you clown. We're going along in the train, his mate said, find out where we are. So he opened the window and shouted, Porter, where are we? The porter said, Leatherhead. He said, same to you, pig face.
Irishman and a monkey went up to the moon in a spaceship. They both got separate instructions written on separate envelopes, and the spaceship stopped on the moon. And the monkey opened his envelope. He said, press button 708, then press button 406. Decompressurize space cabin and traverse moon surface setting up laser beams in conjunction with the sun. Ensure retroactivity of spacecraft's rockets return to Earth. And the Irishman opened his letter. He said, feed the monkey.
That's a crack of that one. The phone rang in the middle of the night and he lifted the phone. He said, I'm sorry, you've got the wrong number. It's the meteorological office you want. And she says, who was that? He said, some fellow wanting to know if the coast was clear.
I love the old people, especially in Wales. They got nothing else to do except stand at the corner of the street and gossip. One day, one old girl said, Mary, what do you think of this your hydrogen bomb then? They tell me that when this aeroplane comes along and drops it on top of us, it'll blow us all into maternity. And she said, aye, and you don't know who done it either. They find anything to gossip about, they talk about anything. One day one old girl said, Mary, what do you think of young Blodwyn Evans? She's getting married on Saturday and she's only 16. Never. Was she pregnant? Oh. No. She said, oh, there's posh for you. And the old people of Wales, they're very, very hearty people. They're fanatics for fitness. We got one old girl, she's 99. She likes to ride a push bike. One day she was pedaling this bike up a steep hill, just like that. And a fella jack in a car stopped. He said, don't pedal, I will give you a tow. He's towing up the hill. Another chap in a Rolls Royce flashes past and gives him a rude sign. So the fella in the jag forgot about the old girl in the back and took off after him. A copper rang into the station. He said, hey, Sarge, I've just seen a funny sight. A Rolls Royce doing 100 mile an hour, a jag doing 105, and Blodwyn Evans on a push bike pedaling like hell, ringing a bell, trying to pass the pair of them. And as they get older, they get independent. There's an old couple living next door to me. He's 97 and the old girl is 95. Last Sunday, she went down in the garden to cut her cabbage for dinner and she fainted flat out. There was the old fella struggling to pick her up. I said, can you manage, Mr. Jones? He said, aye, I'll open a tin of peas. God love you.
Fella staggered out of a pub, staggered out the pub, and he tried his key in a car door, wouldn't fit. Tried another door, tried half a dozen doors, no chance. So he sat down on a seat and he waited, and the pub emptied. They all came out, and all the cars went. And he went across, and there's this one car, and he put his key in, lovely, and the bobby came. He said, I've been watching you. He said, you've been watching you. Blow into this bag. And it was clear. He said, how is that? It's clear. He said, what you've been drinking? He said, coffee. He said, what's the idea of drinking coffee and staggering out? He said, well, I'm the decoy. All my mates have gone home.
Scots fella stood watching Rangers and Celtic. There's a fella stood and he says, to hell with Rangers. Hey. Okay. Brooks said, pardon? Yeah, to hell with a Ranger. Hey. Okay. Hey. Brooks said, I don't know what you're talking. I'm American. I'm from Texas. He said, well, to hell with Texas Rangers.
Laugh. I thought my trousers never dry. Hey, do you know, this is true now, there were a football match between rabbis and fathers. This is right. It was a big game. And when they were all over, Pope rang up, then he said, are you going on up through? He says, we've lost 34-0. He says, you never have. He said, we have 34-0, right drubbing. He said, arrange another match. He said, it's no tale, we're having the more of that, old lad. He said, arrange another. Fix her up with a good one. He said, well, have a race match then. Who we got? He said, Father Eusebio. I said, fair enough, old love. We'll skate to him. Very nice. After match, he phoned him up. He said, how we gone on? He said, we lost 2-1. He said, you never did. He said, we did. We lost 2-1. He said, who scored for us? He said, Father Eusebio. He said, well, who scored for them? He said, Rabbi Charlton and Rabbi Best.
English teacher went over in Ireland teaching. He says to this little lad, Tony Flanagan, he says, who pulled down the walls of Jericho? He said, it wasn't me. So he went to the headmaster. He said, what a school this. He said, I've taught all over the world. He said, I've just asked a little boy there called Tony Flanagan who pulled down the walls of Jericho, and he said it wasn't him. The headmaster says, well, I've known the Flanagan family for about 25 years. And if young Tony Flanagan says he didn't do it, then I believe it. This young fella says to his brother, he says, Bruce, he said, I'm going to Blackpool for the week. Would you mind me cat? He said, certainly. He phoned from Blackpool after about 3 days. He says, Bruce, that you, sweet? Said, yes. He said, how's my cat? He said, it's dead. Oh, he said, you have given me a shock now. He said, I feel all, he said, I've gone all queer. He said, it's terrible. What a shock you've given me, he says. Couldn't you broke it more gentle than that? He said, couldn't you said it was playing with a ball on the roof and it fell off and you got the vet and you injected it and you nursed it for 3 or 4 nights and it died in its sleep? He said, I never thought. He said, well, you give me a terrible shock. How's my mother? He said, well, she was playing with a ball on the roof.